Hey, everybody. This is Vadi with Real Estate with Vadi. Today's guest is Brad. And Brad, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Well, obviously, my name is Brad. I am with Key Realty and the Toledo Home Sellers, the Degnan Group. I've been with Key for going on 3 years now. I've had my license for that long as well. I graduated from the University of Toledo 2012.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bachelor's in Business Administration, minor in Professional Sales from the #1 sales college in the nation at the time I was going there.
What?
Yeah.
Nice.
Rockets were
Okay.
killing it
Okay.
in sales. I've been married for going on 6 years. Life's great.
Life's good?
Real estate's great, and
Nice.
things are good.
Very nice. Very nice. So what I wanted to pick your brain on today, more than anything, and we'll get into the other things with the market and how things are going for all of us kind of right now, but real estate investing. And I have a lot of people who are curious and a lot of people who are scared to take the first steps to get into real estate investing. And that's something that you've already dabbled in and you're well within. So I wanted to pick your brain on that process. And for those who are on the fence about even investing in the first place, especially with home prices are so high right now, why it's still a good idea to invest in real estate.
Yeah. Obviously, real estate is one of the most solid investments that are out there. Other than gold, gold is kind of the standard. You always hear gold and silver.
Everyone refers back to that.
Gold and silver. Real estate's another one. Obviously, they're not making any more gold or silver, but they're also not making any more real estate. You've heard that before. But why invest in real estate is, it's a long-term thing. It's going to be there for you. Even if you get into a situation where maybe it wasn't the best purchase, you've dumped some money into this thing. Chances are you're still going to get some money back out.
Yeah.
It's not most of the time it's not a zero loss. It does happen. So and with any investment, there's going to be risks. No matter what you do, there's going to be risks. So the thing that we're going to kind of talk about today is kind of how to get rid of those risks or minimize them as much as we possibly can. Real estate, it's one of those things they say 99% of millionaires got their start in real estate.
In real estate, yep.
So I want to be part of that 99%. A lot of people talk about being the 1%, but I want to be the 99% in this situation, right? So that I can be that 1% someday maybe. I guess the main thing is people want to know, how do I invest? How much money do I need? Who do I talk to? How do I find a good house?
Yeah.
That's the main thing is how do I find a good home that's not going to just bleed me dry? It's not going to be, something that I'm just constantly dumping money into to fix.
Losing money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first off, you hire good realtors like us.
Yeah. Step one.
That's the
plug.
That's the first step, right? Is you find somebody that knows what they're doing. They know some good inspectors. They know people who can fix things up for a decent price. Some contractors or whoever
Repeat
else.
business as well, because it's somebody that you want to have available at all times that can do constant work for you.
Definitely. So, the other thing is, how much cash do I need? What do I need? Well, obviously the cash that you need depends on the purchase price.
Yeah.
Your down payments, right? Typical investment homes, they're going to require 20%. They don't do, some lenders may, but most of them, they're going to be 20% is the minimum.
20 to 25%. Some require 20. It depends who you find out there. So 20 to 25%.
Yeah, and a lot of that 25% is with your multifamily homes.
Okay.
So and there may be some instances where 25% is required for some single families, but in my experience, most of that time, it's with the duplexes, triplexes.
Got it. Okay.
They're looking for a little bit more, which, I don't really understand that too much.
But
I don't know why.
But that's the way it is. That's out of our hands completely. We're just passing along the information. So
always look at that. You buy a $100,000 home. I'm just doing easy math here.
Yeah,
$100,000 home. It's a duplex. $25,000 down.
Yep.
Obviously, if it's a single family, it's going to be $20,000. Okay. So in my experience, what I've tried to do is find homes in roughly the 51,000 range and up. Okay. The reason 51,000 is because most lenders, they're not going to give you a loan
under 50. Yeah,
exactly.
You're going to go through more of a headache
for investors.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to live there, which is an option, and we'll kind of talk about that with like maybe a duplex.
House hacking.
Yeah.
Yep.
You live in one side and you rent the other side out.
Yep.
Those are some things that we can kind of mediate our risk.
Yeah.
Okay. But you're doing like 20% down. And if you're at 51,000, the minimum loan I think is around 38 to 40, somewhere in there.
Okay.
So keep that in mind when you're looking at homes for investment purposes. Now, single family, it's a lot less. I mean, I've heard of them getting loans for like 15,000.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So,
okay.
Not all lenders.
Okay. Everything depends on the lender that you find and who
exactly.
you're going through to get this. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you may be able to find one out there that'll do it for you, but I've talked to lenders where they said 25,000 they could do it, and I was kind of shocked, but
nice.
I mean, if they tell me
that
they
creates
can do
opportunities.
it,
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but that's for your primary residence.
Mm-hmm.
Investment, it's 38 for the loan.
Okay.
At 38 to 40 for the loan. So you've got to keep that in mind. So when you're at these numbers, if you find a house for like 65,000,
okay,
your down payment is going to be 20% or 25%. In my case, I bought a duplex. Okay. I actually have 2 duplexes right now I've bought in the past 2 consecutive years.
Okay.
And when you purchase at 60,000 or 65,000, you're going to look at roughly you need 20 grand, roughly, with your down payment, your closing cost,
everything put together.
Yes, all that stuff. Okay. So if you look at it that way, if I buy 3 homes and I'm putting 20,000, 20,000, 20,000. If I'm able to find 3 homes at 60,000 or 65,000,
mm-hmm.
I bought 3 homes where I could have just bought 1 with cash.
Okay.
So
explain that a little bit because we're missing some key steps to make that happen.
Yeah.
So
we'll kind of get into that a little bit more. That's like a little teaser there.
Okay. I like it. Okay. All right.
So it's like you're like, wait a second.
Yeah. All right. We'll find out more about that here in a bit.
So once you're kind of looking at that number, okay, 20,000, 25,000, you want to consider repair costs. Anytime you buy a new home, you have to understand that there are going to be things that are going to be wrong with it.
Every single home, by the way.
No matter what.
Every single home is going to have this.
I've had inspections done on brand new construction, 55 pages.
Yeah. 55. Oof.
55 pages.
Yeah.
Okay. It happens.
It 100%. Yeah.
Okay. And it was a very well built home. A lot of the issues were like little things, they had
but they're still there.
Caulk and So
and not to cut you off, but not only that, there are certain things that you're going to want to adjust in the home, anyways. Maybe that are maybe more of a personal thing, but you need to adjust a certain way. So that regardless of, there's always cost involved. Always.
Yes.
So you got to take that into account.
You have to. You have to. So, sometimes you're able to find one and you don't really need to do much to it.
Okay.
Which is great.
Yeah, I mean, even better.
That's what you're looking for, right? But you always have to understand that there may be you may need a roof. I mean, unless they just replaced it, you just have to mitigate that risk and understand that this is a possibility at any moment.
At any time.
I could have to put a new roof on it. I could have to fix some foundation, whatever.
Yep.
Okay. But there's a couple consistent things that you're with rentals, you're always going to have to fix.
Mm-hmm.
Carpet, paint. It's. I mean, those are things that you're going to have to replace at some point. Like it's just,
it also depends how long your tenant is staying in place is going to determine how often you have to replace these things. So it's not an exact calculation, but it is a preparation that it is going to happen.
Yeah.
Like that part's there for
sure. So I typically will recommend putting about 5,000 to 10,000 off to the side. And you may not need to do that, and you can kind of pool it too. So if you've got like 2 properties, you can say, all right, I've got 5,000, because chances are
the emergency is not going to happen at the same time with both.
Exactly. But you want to be prepared for it too.
Yes.
because you don't want to get upside down on the house. You don't want to get yourself in a really bad spot. And when we're talking about mitigating the risks.
Yes.
Like that's the thing. Because we're trying to put people's minds at ease so that they feel more comfortable with investing.
Yes.
And being a landlord.
It's important to be realistic and know about the cost up front, as opposed to thinking, hey, I'm going to buy this house and I got X amount of money coming in. And that's not, I mean, that's part of the formula, obviously, but there's a lot of outs as well. So it's not trying to crush anybody's dream or build them up. It's be realistic with what's going on. And when you can prepare accordingly, like you're saying. Like you have to. It's not that the roof is going to cave in tomorrow.
Exactly.
But there's a lifespan on a roof. It's going to happen eventually, regardless. So you have to be prepared for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And many of the homes in Toledo were, as far as I know, we're really high up there on the scale of homes that were built before 1978.
Very high up there. Yeah, very, very high up there.
If you're not familiar with it, this 1978 is the year for the lead-based paint thing.
Yep.
So there's a lot of old homes in the Toledo area.
Yes.
All right. We kind of stick with our old homes.
Yep.
Whereas like places like California, if it's like 10 years or older, they're like, tear
it down, make a new one.
Build a new one.
Make a new one.
Yeah.
We'll be fine.
So, we kind of hold on to our stuff. So you have to understand, once again, you're going to find things wrong with the home. It's what are you willing to live with? What are you willing to pay to have repaired? And what are my tenants going to be okay with as well?
Plaster walls, very common here. Older electrical.
Yep.
I mean, these are all things that are just, and every market is also different. So we're talking about Toledo and surrounding areas here. Every market's going to be a little bit different when it comes to this, but it's an expectation to know. The houses are a little bit older. There's going to be things that need updates, and sometimes they don't. By the way, like sometimes everything's fine, but just have that expectation that those are the major concerns going in. Yeah,
yeah, and not every purchase you have is going to be a disaster. Okay,
no,
you hear the horror stories of rentals. Okay, just like you always hear the negatives of the news.
Yes, of anything.
You don't hear the positives. You don't hear like, oh yeah, we just signed a peace treaty. Like you don't hear about that. You hear about there may be war.
Yeah.
You hear about the negative things. So here's the thing that you have to think about, and you have to train yourself to understand this: is if there's all these negative things, why are people still investing? Why are there so many people still buying homes? Well, because the positives outweigh the negatives.
Yes.
People, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
Yeah.
So the negatives come out. So you have to understand that as well, that there's going to be these negative things that you hear, and it does happen, and it sucks when it does.
Yep.
It is not a fun situation to have to evict an unruly tenant because they're not paying the rent. It's not fun to do that. It's not fun to have to go in and spend thousands of dollars to repair a basement that's being flooded. Yep. It stinks. So we've got to be real. But the thing is, there's so much more opportunity for positive than there is negative.
Yeah, and those are short circumstances in what you're looking at as a long-term thing. So over the span of X amount of years, how many times have you had to kick a tenant out? How many times have you had the basement flood? Those are generally things that you have to take care of, but it's not something that's going to be a monthly issue. Like you take care of those things for the long term, and then you shouldn't have to deal with those things too often.
Yeah.
Also depends on the number of properties you have.
Yes.
The more properties you have, the more headaches that you're bound to encounter. But the overall weight of it is more positive than negative. But like you said, the louder is the negative out of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to understand this too. I mean, as realtors, we understand if you pay $20,000 or $10,000 to put a new roof on a house, you can't like list it for 10 or 20,000 more.
It doesn't raise the price.
It's part of the house.
No.
So when you look at that, you have to understand this is part of the investment, and it's the long-term investment that's going on. It's all part of it. Okay,
Yep.
so when you have that, you also have to think about the taxes. It's a write-off.
Yep.
It's an adjustment. It goes against your income. You don't pay on that income. You don't pay the taxes on that income if you're putting a new roof on.
Yes.
It cuts into your profit.
So it's taken care of, though, where people see it as a complete and total loss. And that's another benefit is the tax write-offs that you have with this other home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's the other thing that you have to consider. Obviously, you don't want to have, $40,000 in tax write-offs because you had to redo the home and you only made like $10,000 in rent,
Yeah. There's limits to it.
It's not good.
Yeah.
But you have to look
But it
at
exists.
the overall investment of the property.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. So, one of the other things that we kind of look at too is like our rents. I mean, we've got to weigh the rent against the mortgage, and we see like how much am I going to actually have coming in. So we'll kind of dive a little bit deeper into that as well. So one of the things is I kind of teased about the $60,000 you buy 3 houses, or $60,000 you buy 1 house, okay, with cash. So there's a weight there. It's mortgage versus cash. Now, I mean, in my personal opinion, I think that buying 3 houses is better than buying 1.
Okay. The math adds up.
Yeah.
You get 3 instead of 1.
Yeah. However, you can only have 10 loans at a time under your name. Now, if you have a spouse, you can have 10 loans. They can have 10 loans.
Okay.
So you can have 20 total as a household.
Okay.
All right? Now, there are some new companies that have been popping up where they're actually going above and beyond that.
Okay.
Where they're designed for investors. I'm trying to think. I think one of them is. I think they're like Norada Real Estate. They work with investors, and they'll give you loans above those 10 that you have. Okay? They're a private company. So, I mean, to get to 20 loans, I mean, you're
it's gonna take you a little bit to get there.
Yeah.
So it's not like an immediate problem that you have to worry about by any means, but it's something to think about for long term.
And depending on your strategy too, I mean, by the time you get to that 20th loan, you could already have 1 or 2 of them paid off.
Yeah.
And then you're freed up to get 2 more loans. Okay. Yep. So mortgage versus cash. With cash, obviously you're taking all your cash, you're dumping it into that house. You have no mortgage payment. All you have is your insurance and your taxes, which, I roughly estimate $100 a month for insurance. And then depending on the areas that you're in, it's going to be like 3 to 6%, just depending on where you're at. So, you can roughly estimate, just on the high side, $250 a month for taxes and insurance. And that's your new mortgage payment, so to speak.
So that's what you would set aside out of every payment that comes in.
Yes. Now, if you're doing a mortgage for a home at $60,000, remember you're putting $20,000 or $25,000, just depending on if it's a single family or multifamily. Your mortgage payment is going to be roughly, $400 to $550, and that's including your taxes and insurance.
Yep.
Okay. So if you look at it like that, let's just say I'm paying $500 a month on my mortgage. And I'm able to rent this house out for $750 a month.
Okay.
I feel like that's a
good number.
Halfway decent rate for that neighborhood that a $60,000, $65,000 home would be in. $750.
Yep.
Okay. So there's 2 things that I look at. What is my purchase to rent ratio?
Okay.
I like to have 1%, meaning. If I buy a home for $65,000,
okay,
I want to at least, at minimum, get $650 in rent.
Okay.
Okay. Obviously, if it's $100,000, I want $1,000 in rent.
Yeah. Everything's going to change depending on the numbers.
1%. Okay. If you can get higher than that, great.
Yeah.
If you're comfortable with getting less than that, it's fine. You have to understand, just because my mortgage is $500 and I'm getting $750. I'm getting $250 extra a month. That's going to kind of drive my cash flow in a sense, okay? Because that $500 gets taken out, goes to the mortgage, taxes, insurance. Okay. $250 kind of goes in my pocket. But we have to look at it like this. Not only are you getting that $250, but that $500 isn't just thrown away. You're not. It's not just gone.
No, it's equity in the house.
It's equity in the house.
Yep.
So you have to look at it in that instance too. Cash. It's instant equity. You're not taking that $60,000 and just throwing it away. It's in the house. You can sell that house, hopefully, for more than what you paid for it.
So, and just to compare and contrast the two, so with the house paid off completely, you do it in cash, you're golden because that house is now paid off. But the rent that's coming in, you have to put an X amount aside, which you're going to have to do anyways, just to be prepared. But the rest that's coming in is to start building back all the money that you just spent. Like you don't have additional funds.
Yeah.
So it's nice that you have the house paid off, you're good to go, and the rent's coming in. Everything's, we'll say, clean, aside from what you have to put away to pay for taxes, insurance, those kind of things, and repairs. You got to have that money set aside. And then the rest is building your bank back up to start over.
Yeah.
With the mortgage, you still have cash to play with while this is coming in. So that and in the mortgage payment, the taxes and insurance are included in there.
Yeah.
So that's one less.
In my numbers and my calculations.
Yeah.
Now you could separate them and you can send those checks out. Then your mortgage is going to be $350 or $400 or whatever.
It's better to have it included in there.
I just put it all in there. That way my numbers are it's easy.
Yep. Yeah. it's way easier that way, especially if it's going through a mortgage, just to have it all included. You do want to still put money aside for emergencies.
Yes.
But
always.
then all the rest of it is clean, and it goes into a bank where you already have more money. It's not just starting a new account. So you can take that money, and depending on how much you had saved up to begin this process, you can still look for more properties. We were starting with a theoretical $60,000, right? Yeah,
65,
60. So we had 20 to put in.
Yep.
So 20 and 1, we still have enough. Now, there's another strategy as well, right? If there's less cash to play with, but you do a mortgage on the first house.
Yeah. So what I personally do is I do the mortgage system. Okay. That way, one, I can buy homes faster. Okay. I can, because not everyone has $60,000 in cash laying around. I mean, it's just
exactly.
Now with that $60,000, here's the other thing: is you could take that $60,000 and try and find 3 homes at $20,000. Okay. So you can try that as well.
That's tougher though, because the amount of money that you have to put into the house, you're gonna get into it.
It's gonna be higher. Okay. Yeah. So that's the other kind of cost benefit analysis that you've got to kind of weigh into it. Okay. And obviously a $20,000 home, the rent's gonna be a little bit lower. It's gonna be $350 to $400 to $500.
What's your 1% on that?
Yeah.
What's your
Yeah, are you hitting your 1%?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
And in that case, you should be hitting over 1%.
Well, you definitely should be hitting over that 1%.
So, but here's the other thing that you've got to consider too is vacancy cost.
Yes.
Okay. In my experience, I've known several investors. They've had homes in situations like that where their turnover is a lot higher. They have tenants that they just pick up and leave, and all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, I call them, hey, why haven't I gotten rent? What's going on? Oh, we moved.
They already left.
Yeah,
it's gone.
And that happens. That happens. So I mean, there's
with a signed contract and lease with everything in place, it still happens.
Yeah. No. So you have to look at that. I mean, you have to kind of account that maybe every 6 months I have a year lease, but maybe every 6 months I'm going to have some turnover.
Yeah,
and I'm going to have at least a month where I've got to go in there, I've got to clean it out. $350 to clean everything out or whatever. I've got to, maybe repaint, recarpet. That's, another couple grand. And then I got to find another tenant.
And time is of the essence in that case, because the longer that it sits there, the longer that you're losing money.
Every day.
So as soon as, you find out that the tenant has left, you want to start working to get that property ready to go like ASAP. The faster you do it, the more money you're saving.
Yeah, and you have to think of it that way. Every single day. I mean, I did a calculation one time because I was just kind of curious. I just want to see, how much am I making on this one unit every day? And it was roughly 40, I think it was $40 to $50 a day.
Okay.
And it's that's a significant,
a day.
That'll fill up half your gas tank.
A day. I have a little hybrid, so that's a tank and a half.
A tank and a half. On my truck, it's half a tank. Yeah. But still, it adds up quick. Yeah. It adds up really quick. Yeah. Okay. So we're looking for houses that give us at least 1%. Some guys are high. I've talked to investors where they're like, I won't do anything under 1.3%.
Yeah, everyone's going to have a different number on that, by the way, guys. So everyone has to come up with numbers that they're comfortable.
Yeah.
This is just a general guideline of how to get into it and the things to expect going into it. But everyone's going to have different amounts saved up. Everyone's going to be more comfortable with different amount. That percentage is going to be completely up to you. But it is a business that you want to run profitably. So you do have to maintain certain things in order. Otherwise, what are you doing? There's no point in getting into it to lose money. No.
I didn't buy these houses for my health.
Yeah. It wasn't for fun. I'm not fixing all this stuff for fun.
I'm doing it because, one, I want to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I want to be able to be in my 50s and not have to like worry about income because I've got 20, 30 rental properties.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
the
my
game plan. Yeah.
So we kind of talked about like the buying in cash or buying a mortgage. So here's one thing that we have to look at. We've got these two different systems. Now, buying 3 homes with mortgages, we also have to consider our debt to income ratio.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think with debt to income ratio with lenders, and always talk to your lender. All right.
Yeah, 100%.
We're not lenders.
Yep.
We're realtors.
Yep. There's not advice. Go talk to your lender for the exact numbers and situation.
We got to make the disclaimer, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Our bread and butter is finding you the best home possible and negotiating the crap out of it and getting you the best price.
And we'll touch more on that here in a second because I have some things to say about that as well.
So with lenders, I mean, I think it's around 30% that they can use. Okay. So that the income they can use 30% to kind of counteract what your mortgage is. So, say you're making like $1,000 every month, okay, and their debt to income ratio, they typically like it under 42%.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they like it in the 30s, really.
Yeah,
32 is like
the lower
ideal.
the better. Yeah.
And if you have all these mortgages, obviously your debt to income ratio increases, but it also is kind of counteracted a little bit because of your rents coming in.
Because you have income.
It's income.
Yep.
Okay, but it only can work so much. It's not 100%.
Yeah.
They only can use a certain percentage of it. So when you do these mortgages, my strategy is I'm doing 30-year mortgages on these right now.
Okay.
Now, some guys will tell you, do a 15, get it paid off quicker so that you can get that cash flow like instant, like that time.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm waiting 15 years to get that instant cash flow.
Yeah.
Whereas if I do a 30-year mortgage, my debt-to-income ratio is lower.
Mm-hmm.
My mortgage payment is lower,
mm-hmm.
so my cash flow is higher.
Yep.
Then
Gives you more wiggle room.
Yeah. So I'm looking at these first handful of properties that I buy. These I'm calling my cash flow builders.
Okay.
These are the ones that I'm getting a lot of cash flow from them because my mortgage is lower.
Okay.
I've got them for 30 years. Okay. So they're just building up down payments for me. I take that money and I put it off to the side. I set it off to the side so that I can take it and buy another property.
It's reinvesting into the business.
Yes. So I'm not taking this money and just blowing it on, whatever I want.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you got to splurge a little bit and have some fun. But
the point of this is more of a long-term scenario. And everyone, I guess, has a different view on what they want to use it for. So some people short-term want to make some extra money, go spend it, go buy whatever. And that's absolutely fine. But for a majority of people, this is a long-term retirement type of plan where the longer that you can go with reinvesting into that business, the more it's going to grow. And by the time you're done looking for new properties and all you want to do is take the income coming in, the more you're going to get off of that.
Yeah.
So it's a better long-term idea to reinvest into the business.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously the more you have, the faster you're going to build that cash flow, the down payments, you're going to build that up faster. So eventually I'm going to get to a point where I'm going to cut it down and I'm going to say I'm switching from my cash flow investment into my equity builders. The equity builders are basically the ones that you're either paying cash for because you've already got your instant equity or you're doing a 15-year mortgage on it. And that is something that you're paying more towards it. You're paying less on the interest. So you're building equity a whole lot faster. Okay. So that's kind of my personal strategy of what I'm doing. It may not work for you. Maybe you want to do the 15-year mortgage because you
want paid off faster.
I'm relatively young.
Yeah.
I'm in my mid-30s. Okay, so this strategy kind of works for me. If you're thinking about getting into it, maybe later on in life, you're in your late 40s, early 50s, or something. You may want to change that up and do that 15-year mortgage or pay cash.
Yep.
It's
everyone's going to have their own style, even regardless of age, because there may be some people out there younger than us who are in a better situation to just do the 15 years. And that's great.
Yeah.
It's really, you got to put together the numbers and what works best for you.
Yeah.
Like there's options is the thing. There's options.
So here's my other argument for a 30-year mortgage.
Okay.
They did away with the early payoff penalty years ago.
Yeah.
They used to do it where if you paid it off early, you had to pay this penalty.
It's still mentioned every single time, though.
And
every single time, they're like, hey, there's no penalty for paying it off early.
Yeah. And it's okay. It's like, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for not penalizing me for being a good steward of my money and
appreciate
paying
it.
Paying you early.
But,
okay. In a sense, we're kind of screwing the bank because then they're not getting their interest. So that's one of the reasons they did it is to kind of counteract.
Because they had to get their interest.
But they're getting away from that now.
Yeah.
So take advantage of that. If you want, if you basically round up your mortgage payment, which I have always done in my life, every payment I've ever had, car note, whatever it is, I always do the roundup principle.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it's $250 a month, I'm paying $300. $300. That's $50 a month extra. Over 12 months. You're making a couple extra car payments, aren't you?
100%.
Okay.
What one is for house payments? What I tell my clients to do is take one of their payments, divide it up by 12. And then whatever number they come up with, round up slightly. I still tell them to round up slightly on that. And then that cuts down the 30 years to 23 years. It cuts it down by 7 years just by doing that one extra payment a year.
Yeah.
And if you break it down into months, you don't even notice it. Like it becomes regular.
Yeah.
It's part of your budget at that point. Yeah.
So and the other beauty about overpaying on that is then you're paying against the principal. So the principal then that's what they determine the interest rate. It goes against that principal.
Yes.
So if the principal's less, then the interest is less, right?
Yes.
So you can turn a 30-year mortgage into a 15-year if you want to.
Yeah.
But you can't turn a 15-year into a 30 because then you're going to default and it's going to go in foreclosure, and then you're out of the house. Like,
you got wiggle room on the 30. You don't have wiggle room on the 15.
So it's very easy to turn a 30 into a 15. And honestly, in these price ranges that we're kind of talking about in the 60s to 70s, I mean, adding $50 a month, that's basically like the difference between a 15 and 30.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, if you do that, that's fine. I'm not doing that right at this moment because, once again, I'm trying to build my portfolio.
Yeah.
I want as much cash as I can. I'm dumping it away so that I can buy more houses faster.
Yep.
Once I get a handful of units, maybe 5 or 6, that's when I'll kind of start bumping those payments up, try and turn them into 15-year mortgages, and then do the same thing with the ones that I buy in the future.
Gotcha.
And once again, it's all what you're comfortable with. There's really no like right or wrong answer.
There's options.
Stuff. Yeah,
there's options, and I think that's what people need to know is that there's a lot of options to do this. But one thing I want to circle back on that we touched base on earlier is your realtor looking at these houses for you. In this market, everything's hot. Like things are going so fast that if you are an investor, it is going to be your job as well to constantly be searching for these properties, whether it's off market, whether it's on Zillow, Realtor. We have ToledoHomesellers.com that you can we'll send you all the updates, but there's going to be so much coming in and so many people on those things. You can't just wait for somebody to say, "Hey, I found that deal for you. Here you go." You're gonna be waiting a long time. You have to also it is a job, and it's not just, oh, tell me what house to buy, tell me what to do, I go do that, I'm done. You're gonna have to crunch your numbers. You're gonna have to figure out what you are comfortable with in your situation. Yes. You're gonna look at some properties that you might not have a taste for, or vice versa. Like there's gonna be times where everything falls on you as the investor, and you have to be comfortable with everything you're doing. Your comfortable isn't the same as so-and-so's comfortable, as so-and-so's comfortable. So I say that to say it is work. It's not just like, oh, hey, there's a process to it. But at the end game, retirement, funds coming in, everything going smoothly, beautiful. But in the beginning, it is a grind. You do have to constantly look for these deals. You want to run numbers to see if it's a deal that fits your needs, like the 1%. What can you rent it for in that area? How much money you're going to have to put into this property? There's a lot of factors that go into it. So all that to say, even with a phenomenal realtor, who's on top of their game looking at all times, you still have to put in the work and look yourself as well.
Yeah.
There's just too much. There's too much that can be inside or outside of your comfort zones, and only you can determine that. So it's a big deal for people to know that they have to do their part in it as well.
Yeah, and I mean, a little bit of a shameless plug for us is we're both full-time realtors.
Yeah.
So not only am I showing homes for my client, I could be showing homes for you, okay? I just had a situation where I showed a triplex to one of my other clients. They passed on it. They said, no, this isn't really for us. I had another client that was kind of looking, and I said, hey, I just looked at this house. I just showed it to him. They love it. He went, he looked at the pictures and everything, and he was like, hey, sign me up. Let's write an offer.
Yep. Okay. I've had similar scenarios where it just does not, one client walks in and they want nothing to do with the house. And you're like, okay, well, I showed you the house, and now I've seen it at this point. I'm like, and in my head, I'm like, well, it only requires this. Everyone has a different mentality and puts different numbers together on what it would be to fix up the house. And okay, and so another client who's investing, it works out perfect for him. The benefit of us who do this all day, and I, working with investors, is that's what we're in and around a lot of the time. So. Some things can come our way that
maybe
other people may miss. I'll say
maybe it wasn't on your search because it was it was listed as like a 2-bedroom, but you're only looking for 3 bedrooms or whatever. So it didn't hit your search that we send to you or whatever. And sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
But the fact that we're going and looking at all these different homes, we can kind of give you a little guidance and say, hey, I just saw this one for you. What do you think?
Yeah. Doesn't exactly fit the criteria, but sometimes even those can be changed.
Yeah.
Because I worked with some investors who have changed the layout or added, bathrooms, added a room where people just didn't see it, and they had the vision to do that.
Yep.
So even outside of the criteria, it could still fit your needs.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess like one of the other things that we can kind of talk a little bit about is the difference between like a multifamily home and a single family home. Okay. So like with like a multifamily home, obviously there's going to be some advantages and disadvantages. One of the main advantages is obviously if you've got a duplex or a triplex, you've got 2 renters or 3 renters over 1. Okay. One of the disadvantages is if one of those tenants has a problem, the other 2 probably have, a similar problem. Okay?
Yeah.
Whether it's, whatever it may be. I'm not going to give specific examples because we're trying to make you feel comfortable about investing.
But things can happen in the home, and that could affect everybody.
Yeah. So you have to consider that as well. Also, like say somebody's, they got a rock band. And the other person,
well, that's just something you're gonna
they're into classical music. So you have to kind of coordinate and hopefully your tenants can be cordial. I look at it like this: if I've got a tenant that's moving from an apartment into one of my duplexes or triplexes,
they already understand the noise and the being nice to your neighbors. I guess is
being cordial and
that's
being
the word,
respectful.
cordial.
Being respectful. So you have to keep that in mind when you're searching out for your tenants and making sure that everything is going to kind of flow. Not everyone's going to get along. I mean, heck, especially when you're living with people. I mean, I would fight with my brother all the time. Like, you get in an argument with your parents or whatever, it happens.
It depends also if it's more like let's say a twinplex where everything's separated side by side or a duplex and you got the up and down. So it depends on the scenario, what kind of situations you can run into on those as well.
So obviously in my opinion, like I feel like duplexes have a little bit less risk in that, just because then you're not adding a third person, but it just depends on your numbers, your money. I mean, if you're getting $2,000 on a house that you paid $75,000 or $65,000, it's a triplex. That's pretty good. Like, you're making pretty good money. So is it worth the headache?
Yeah.
Of potentially having to find new tenants
and everybody's in a different situation where they're willing to deal with different things. Yeah. So if you're in the right situation, I think the benefits of let's say a duplex, and let's say that you own no rental properties, you don't even own your own home. The duplex is the perfect house hack where you can live on one side, rent out the other, and your tenant can pay your mortgage. And so you are basically living for free.
Yeah.
You'll pay your bills, and that's about it. And depending on what the rent is, it could cover that as well. Yeah. So, like, that's the perfect scenario for somebody who's maybe younger, is in a position to be able to move into a location and not worry about it and have the tenants and your tenants are, they live right next to you. That's another way to kind of mitigate any kind of loud noise issues or anything like that, because you're right there. And also, if a problem occurs, they can just come, hey, I got this problem. You're right there on site to deal with those kind of problems.
Yeah, and if you're, obviously, I always want to recommend a contractor, a licensed contractor, to do your work.
Any of the work. Yes.
If you consider yourself handy, understand that you don't do it for a living.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's
how handy are you to work on that furnace in the wintertime?
Exactly.
When the motherboard's having a problem, you're like,
yeah. Changing a filter is one thing.
Yeah.
Replacing a motherboard, totally different thing.
Totally different thing. So
that's why it's good to have like realtors. That we have those contacts, we have people that we know can do this stuff for you. Okay, maybe changing a plug cover. That maybe you don't need to hire an electrician for that.
You're golden. Yeah, you're golden.
Replacing the actual outlet.
Yep.
So there's that distinction that we have to keep in mind too.
Yep.
But if you're there, and it's going to be instant, they're going to let you know. If you start, you're in the duplex and all of a sudden you start getting leaks, you're like, okay, I got a problem.
Something's happening.
Yeah. As opposed to sometimes your tenants don't tell you that there's something going wrong,
or they don't know,
right?
Because that situation, let's say you're in a duplex, you're in the bottom, they're in the top, and something's leaking through. It may be leaking under from a point that they don't even know about.
They don't.
Yeah. So now you're finding out about it before your tenant even does, and at least you can get a jump start on fixing that.
Yeah. So obviously that's not something that not
ideal. Not what we're aiming for. but it can happen.
Yeah,
you got to be realistic.
There's an advantage because then you know about it before it becomes a really serious issue.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the advantage of a single family home. Okay. So single family home, obviously your cash flow is going to be a little less because you're not going to be able to rent a single family home of $65,000 to $75,000 or whatever. You're not going to be able to rent it for $1,400. You're not going to be able to get into that 2% range like you could on a duplex. However, the advantage of a single family home is the equity.
Yep.
They increase in property values so much faster and much higher than a duplex. Okay. So over the course of 10 years, your duplex it may only increase like 2% every year, whereas a single family home, what is it right now? Is it like 5? Well, it's higher than that right now.
It went up to like 8.
Yeah.
It was at like 8%.
Yeah. So I think on average it's about 5% normally.
3 to 5% appreciation rate. Yeah.
But right now it's significantly higher.
Yeah.
But you can, that's where there's an advantage of a single family home. And also it's easier to sell a single family home than it is a duplex. Because who's really looking for duplexes?
Yep.
Investors.
Yep.
Okay. Single family home, it's the highest range of people. It's single families. It's maybe mom, dad, or whoever else with a kid or whatever, or for new couple, whatever it may be. There's a lot more of those people than there are investors out there. So the selling is a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
However, if you're an investor,
the duplex is going to bring in more money.
We want to have and hold.
Yeah.
All right. If I'm investing in a property, the only time I'm selling it is if I bought it at a really low price, I fixed it up, I flip it. That's the only time I'm selling. And even at that, I may not sell it. I'm just going to hold on to it.
Honestly, it would be more profitable to hold long term, let it appreciate, and then rent it out during that time and then sell.
Yep. Have and hold. I mean, if you're selling, basically, if you're buying rentals and you're selling them, you probably shouldn't have bought that property in the first place.
The other thing, single family homes, the turnover is less than in duplexes.
Yes, duplex. Yeah, the turnover rate's a little bit higher. just because sometimes they don't mix well, they don't they don't get along,
whatever the reason may be. But it seems that single family homes tend to attract tenants who can turn it into a home and tend to stay longer. And that's hit or miss also. Like, that's not every single scenario. Just the overall numbers on that show that, a single family home tends to retain the tenant longer than the duplex.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what my experience has been with my in-laws have been doing rentals for years, so I've kind of learned from them as well. But I mean, that's kind of their experiences. The single families, they work out. And my in-laws, they focus on single family. I think they've got maybe 1 or 2 duplexes, and they've got multiple homes. Most of them are single family. Because that's what works for them.
Yeah, I was going to say it depends on your style, because some people are going to want all duplexes, and all of them are bringing in double or triple what a single family could bring in.
Yeah.
Again, depending on the area, there's a lot of variables in all this. We're speaking hypotheticals here.
Yeah.
On
because I mean, if you get into Sylvania, you buy a house for $250. You could, depending on the neighborhood in Sylvania, I mean, you could potentially be getting $2,000 a month in rent. Now that's below that 1%.
Yeah, but you're still bringing in $2,000 a month.
And you have to look at the equity.
Yeah.
So maybe you're not hitting your 1%.
Yeah.
But in the long run, you're going to be hitting your equity, and 30 years from now, you'd be able to sell that home for $300 plus.
And depending on location and appreciation rates in that area, everything differs from location to location.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Yeah. That comes into play as well. Those are things to consider. Depending on some people who are just looking for the quick money, it might be a better idea in an area that doesn't appreciate as fast, but they can get in there, fix it, and start renting it right away. They're not worried about those other figures. But if you're looking at it long term, then you want to look at location a little bit more as well.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, there's kind of some classifications that we can do. As realtors, we're somewhat limited because there's certain rules and regulations like block busting, things like we can't tell you like where to buy, what school districts. All we can do is just tell you, look it up online.
These are the options. Yeah, these are the options. Like that's literally it.
You can look up crime reports on the web. You can look up school districts on the web.
Yeah,
you kind of have to do that homework because us as realtors, technically, we are not allowed to.
We can't say. And not only that, opinions vary greatly on that. From client to client, the same exact house, same exact neighborhood could be atrocious or beautiful. And so how do we we literally, even there's rules and regulations in place that we can't do it anyways. Yeah. But even aside from that, everybody's opinion is so varied that there's no way that I could say this is great, this is horrible. That I don't know what your opinion is. So again, all that information is available online, and I recommend anybody who's looking at it in that way to drive by the neighborhood. What do you think?
Always.
What's your personal opinion on it? Like, you have to form that opinion. I can't tell you much. All the information is available online as far as statistics, and you can look it up and see if it's something that fits what you're looking for.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing that I will kind of do is I will do classifications of neighborhoods like A, B, C, D, based on price ranges.
Okay.
So obviously, like if your price range is like 500,000 and up. You can pretty much, it's a safe guess that it's going to be an A-class neighborhood.
Yes.
Okay. School district will most likely be pretty good. The other homes in that area, they're all going to be around that same price range. It's probably in a development.
Probably is the key word in all of this.
Yeah. So, and then like your B-class neighborhood, and this is Toledo market. Okay. Yeah. I mean, California is going to be a totally different thing.
Totally different game.
I mean, $500,000 home in California and LA
is Toledo and surrounding areas. We'll go with Northwest Ohio on this.
Northwest Ohio. Yeah. So our A-class neighborhoods are probably like 500 and up. Mm-hmm. Your B class is anywhere from like 250 to 4 or 5. And then the different classes of neighborhoods, it kind of drops with price range. And that's
is this your own grading scale, by the way?
Kind of.
I was going to say, you made this up.
Well, I mean, it's not
because I heard this grading scale.
It's not an exact,
but you're using it for a frame of reference to be able to tell people
because prices,
with a lot of leeway, by the way.
Yeah,
with a lot of leeway. Yeah,
prices are going to tell you a whole lot. I mean, you're not going to see in Sylvania or Perrysburg, you're not going to see a $30,000 home unless it's trashed.
Yeah.
And it's just a mess, and it needs tons and tons of work.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, even then, it's probably going to be higher.
Exactly. No,
it probably has a foundation problem if it's
it probably needs to be torn down. So, and that's the thing is everything is going to be different. I mean, you go to like the Ottawa Hills Old Orchard is a constant debate in our area. Okay? Like because there's homes that are like 150,000 and then like across the street they're like $1 million.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, how do I do
comps?
Yeah.
How
do I do comps? So it's just a little different. So that's kind of how I just do a general classification of like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever.
It's just the whole song, all the way to Z.
Z class neighbors. You don't want to be.
You don't want to be in the Z class neighborhood. I don't know what to tell you, dude. It's up to you completely.
Yeah.
But
so if you kind of look at it like that, obviously the better the neighborhood, the better the classification. The higher the rent's going to be. Also, you're higher the mortgage, but your equity is probably going to increase higher.
Yeah.
So if you want to go that route, there's many people that buy $500,000 homes or higher, and they don't even live in them. They just rent them out.
Yeah.
And they're happy with it.
What you can charge for the rent is above what the mortgage is. And so you have a $500,000 house that's paying itself off.
Yeah.
And another thing with those houses in the higher price ranges when it comes to renting, those tend to attract tenants that stay long term.
Oh, yeah.
Like those are tenants that are serious about wanting to stay there. And whether the reasons is for, building back up their credit to purchase a home, or they may have their own reasons for not wanting to purchase, but those tenants seem to stay like years. Like we're talking long term, they want to stay there. So it's even less of a turnover rate and having to go in and repair and having to go change it. Like it's less cost overall, even though the initial amount is it's way higher. Yeah. So it's definitely going to scare a lot of people off from it. It's an investment. So any investment can still go wrong. Anything. There's no 100% guarantee. There's no 0% chance of an error. Like these things can still happen. So people look at the numbers and they're like, nah, I'm not getting into that.
Yeah.
Or you're not in a position to get into that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I'm in a position to get into that.
So kind of you made me think of something else is when you're in those higher class neighborhoods, the developments especially, you have to be aware of HOAs. Okay, not that HOAs are terrible things, but some of them specifically say no rentals. Like you cannot rent this property out.
Yes.
And if that's the case, you want to research that. You want a realtor who can look at this and say, can we rent this out? I mean, I've got an investor who's wanting to buy this house. Yeah. But if they can't rent it, then
it's useless.
It's a moot point.
It's useless.
Yeah.
So, condos, same way, because some condos you can rent out, other condos you cannot rent out. It's something that you need to look at when you're purchasing it for rental purposes.
100%. So you always want to look at that too. Now with some of like the lower class neighborhoods, it's not going to be an issue because most of them aren't really developments, but there are some. So you always kind of want to look at that as
and your realtor should be looking at most of the stuff for you as well. Honestly, if you have a good relationship with your realtor, which you should. This should all be open dialogue and conversation so that by the time they say, hey, I'm interested in so-and-so house, you're pulling up info on all the house. The main thing being, can you rent it, especially if it's a condo or something like that. Those are things that, your realtor, you want to do your own research as well, but your realtor should be looking out for you on that one.
Exactly. So I just wanted to bring that up because it made me think of it.
That was good,
that's something that I don't really think about too much because of the price range that I'm in. Yeah. I'm investing in. It doesn't really come up. But if you're an investor and you're looking in a higher price range, that's definitely something we want to look at and make sure that we're covering that base. So it all depends on the price that A, B, C, D, whatever neighborhood you're wanting to get into. Obviously the higher class neighborhoods, the tenants may stay a little bit longer. And honestly, my wife is a nurse at one of the local hospitals here, and we're actually looking at doing some travel nursing. Yeah, travel nursing is becoming a huge thing right now. I mean, where they're offering
a lot
crazy contracts.
A lot.
I mean, she showed me one the other day where it was like a crisis contract in Washington D.C. and they were for 4 weeks they were going to pay $15,000 a week.
Yeah.
And so
that's. Did you say a week?
A week, 15,000 a week. I know that would buy 3 houses.
Yeah.
So the thing, the thing about
Can
it
you
is,
pay me in houses?
Yeah, I know. Can I just have a house? There's one on Pennsylvania Avenue I'd really like to own, but whatever. So with that being said, these nursing contracts, these travel nursing contracts, they're giving a stipend.
Okay.
And it's a tax-free stipend for living expenses.
Okay.
So basically, at that point, the nurse is kind of like, well, I need a place to live. They don't care about the rent cost because the company's paying for it.
Yep.
So that's one of the other things I feel like is not so much, but it is driving up rental prices just because there's so many travel nurses right now. I mean,
a lot.
It is wild.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you're getting paid basically double what you're getting paid at your hospital job, like
you're gonna
So obviously that's something that we kind of want to look at too. So when I think on average, like the stipend that a lot of them are getting in this area is like maybe like $1,200. And I think that's $1,200 like a check or a contract or something like that. So depending on how long the contract is, obviously so
it varies.
Yeah. So, if you're buying houses around a hospital, chances are you might get a nurse that's going to be there for a short period of time.
Yep.
And if one of them comes up to you, take advantage of that situation and say, hey, are you getting a stipend? No. Like, if you're getting a stipend, you're only going to be here for, how long is your contract? 3-4 months. I'm going to need a little something because then I'm going to have some vacancy costs.
There's going to be a turnover rate. And there's going to be a period of time where it's empty.
Yeah, most likely they're going to be okay with it.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll do an Airbnb. I mean,
that was going to be my suggestion. I don't know about that first one because I don't know enough about that to get in there. But the Airbnb in a location like that for nurses right now, phenomenal.
Because most of them are only working 3, maybe 4 days a week.
Have you dealt with any Airbnbs up here? And I mean,
I have not.
No.
Okay. I haven't really dealt with any. I know. I have a cousin who owns a couple of them down in the Columbus area, and I think he's got one in Tennessee or something. But, I mean they're pretty profitable. Yep. I mean, if people are doing it. So.
Yeah, people are doing it. So if people are doing it, there's a reason people are doing this. But I want to have that conversation here soon about Airbnbs in the area because I think they're very overlooked right now. And just that scenario that you're pointing out right now, there are a ton of traveling nurses. They're going to need a place to stay short term. They don't want to sign a lease for a year. They're not going to be here a year. They're only going to be here X amount of time. Yep. They need something that fits their needs within X amount of time. Yeah. And this isn't just like 5 to 10. There's a lot of nurses right now in all areas. So I think it's something to look into as well. But I just don't have enough knowledge in that one to dive into that as much.
Yeah. And I mean, like say one of my units goes vacant here in the next few months. I mean, I've got leases signed through next year, but one of them goes vacant. I may look at setting it up as an Airbnb for the time being until and see
trial it out.
Yeah.
If you have the opportunity to do so and you're in a position to do so, I would 100% trial it out and just see what happens because there's no way of knowing. It's just like everything else. You got to do it sometimes to honestly find out how it works, if it's worth it, if it's something that you're comfortable with, if it's not. Do the pros outweigh everything. Like it's just better to do some things and find out. If you win at it and it's all great. Yeah. But if it doesn't work out, now and you don't have to deal with it anymore. It's not a thought of should I. The same thing with rentals for people who are considering getting into rental properties. Get in one and do one. Like there's risks are minimized when it comes to buying a house and going all the way down to zero. Like it's just now you can buy a stock or you can invest your money in some other things where it's a lot riskier than what real estate is.
So I mean,
to try it.
People are going crazy over crypto right now, and it's a pretty.
Super risky.
You can make some money on it, but you can also lose everything.
Yeah, it's super risky. You gotta be intelligent with it. Like you can't. Don't go all in. Is all. Like just don't go 100%. Here's all my money. Yeah. Take all my money, and then you're in a bad position.
Let's just put it this way: the money that I have invested in the cryptos, it's basically like fun money. Like it's if I lose it,
I'm okay with it.
It's whatever. But, but if it quadruples, triples in values, I'm like,
great,
hey, cool.
Great.
I can buy another house.
Yes. all paths lead to another house.
I'm not trying to push anyone else that direction. I'm just saying that's what I'm doing,
100%.
Yeah. So so I was just kind of thinking about, like, one of the other advantages of a duplex over a single family is, I forgot to mention this one, but you have two renters. If one renter leaves, that mitigates your risk of vacancy cost.
Okay.
So basically, the way I have my rent set up is, if one tenant is gone, it's still making the mortgage payment. I'm not having to pay anything.
Okay. Now, explain that one a little bit more. Hold on. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of lost on that one.
So let's say my mortgage on one of my duplexes is $500.
Okay.
I have 2 units. Both of them are rented out at $500.
Oh, okay. I get what you're saying.
If one goes vacant,
I was thinking single family in my house. You're saying a pro of the duplex over the
duplex
gotcha.
over the single family.
Okay.
Single family.
I was lost at first. I was like, how'd you get 2 people in there? It's just one house. This is why.
Sorry,
I got you.
Yeah. So the single family. I mean, if it's vacant, it's vacant.
Yeah.
You're paying the mortgage.
You're done. Yeah.
So that's I'm eventually going to start buying some single families. I mean, it's going to happen. But I think to kind of mitigate that risk, once again, maybe your first house, you investment property you buy is a duplex, just to kind of help with that.
Yeah.
You live in one side, you fix it up.
The house hacking.
Rent the other side out. And that way it just kind of, it kind of helps you out.
I have one more question for you. And this is something that I just want to touch base on with anybody that I have on this show, just because I want to pick their brains. And it's a conversation that I keep having over and over. And I don't get tired of it, and then especially for people who are looking to maybe get into investing, or even purchasing your first home for yourself. Everyone seems to believe, everyone outside of realtors, I guess, that there's some kind of crash coming, and we're like in a bubble, and things are gonna crash here soon, and prices are gonna go down so hard, and they're waiting for that moment to purchase anything. And so I just want to pick your brain and your thoughts on what you think is upcoming. And all this is speculative. None of us know anything. This is our theories based off of all the information that we have. I just want to make that very, very clear. That being said, if you take the information that you have right now, what's your thoughts on this?
I mean, to me, it is definitely a not a bubble. It's from my research, from my understanding, and following up on things, it is more of a supply and demand issue, 100%. And I honestly think it stems all the way back to the 2008 crash. Okay, obviously that was there was a lot of predatory lenders, there was a lot of bad things going on. Okay, and things just crashed. That bubble popped, and it was just a mess. And a whole bunch of people lost their homes. It's just nonsense, okay? But not only did people lose their homes, but people lost their businesses. And really, it impacted the construction business. I know personally, like, 2 contractors that lost their construction company during that time. Okay? So when it affects contractors and home builders, we're not building homes. Basically, we're supposed to, as a nation, be building roughly like 500,000 homes a year. And over the past like 10 years or so, we've only been building maybe 300,000 a year. And these are rough numbers, but I mean, that's a big disparity. I mean, that's a big chunk. So what it shows me is that, I mean, there's an opportunity for construction companies right now. There's an opportunity for new builders to try and pump them out. But along with that, lumber prices, supplies, that's all kind of going up as well. So that's kind of like what's kind of keeping new homes from being built is the rising price of lumber and materials. But hopefully that stuff kind of levels off, and then we can start building homes again. And that will increase the amount of homes that are out there. But I feel like it's more of a supply and demand issue. There's not very many homes out there. I mean, just last week we were kind of talking about it in the Toledo market. I think there was like 768 homes or something on the market active, and I don't know if that was including coming soon or not. But then this week we just
how many did you just say?
I think it was 768. I can't remember.
With coming soon.
I think that was with coming soon.
Yeah.
And I think with coming soon's now it's like this week. 1 week later it's 690 or something.
Yeah.
It's under 700.
Yeah.
So I mean you can see like we're homes are going off the market pretty quick.
Yeah.
Like they're still moving.
Yeah.
But we're just not increasing.
Just to give some context to people who may not know, just outside of our business who are watching this, there are normally between 2,500 to 3,000 houses in inventory in the market to last supply for a couple months.
Yeah.
And we are currently, if we take away the coming soons and we just look at actives, last time I checked, we were at 630.
Okay.
So
that number changed again. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's without the coming soons. With the coming soons, we're getting into I believe the low 700s or high 600s.
Okay.
Regardless of whatever it is between 6 and 700 right now, right?
Yeah. Very low.
Normally 2,500 to 3,000, 2,500 to 3,000 houses, somewhere in that range is what's sitting on the market.
Yeah.
And we're currently at 600 and
and
40-ish.
I mean, in realistic terms too, it is a slow season, so that 2,500, 22 to 2,500, that's like our peak seasons. That's like spring, summer, early fall. That's when things are really ramped up.
Yep.
But even at that, this is still kind of low for this time of year.
This is very low for
So, we're hoping that what's happening is there's a lot of people out there that are like, I'm just waiting for the spring. I can't tell you how many prospects I've talked to, they're like, I'm just waiting for the spring, and they're going to list their home in the spring. So I would imagine that number is going to just shoot up here in the next month or two, which creates opportunities. Yeah,
fingers crossed.
Knock on wood.
Yeah,
whatever.
I'm with you.
Whatever thing you can think of. What is it? I can't think of the name. Like superstition.
Whatever superstition you believe in.
Whatever.
Do whatever you got to do right now. Now's the time for it.
Yeah. So, we're just hoping that it's just going to explode.
Yeah.
And as a buyer, then there's a whole lot more homes on the market. So hopefully it will kind of level out the pricing. That's kind of what we're hoping for. We don't know if that's going to happen or not.
None of us know anything. We can take very good guesses, educated guesses at that, because this is what we do all day, every day. We're looking at the numbers. We're looking at the different scenarios that could come from this. That being said, none of us know anything. You know what I mean? It's all speculative. Now with that being said again, everything that led up to the 2008 crash was a completely different scenario than what we're in now. And I have to agree with you 100% that the 2008-9 crash is directly impacting us now, because there were so many houses that were foreclosed on and were out on the market. It's completely a buyer's market at that point. Yeah. The rate of I believe it's 500 to 700,000 houses that are supposed to be built yearly. Yeah. And for a couple of years there, it was actually below that 300. Really, like, it was very low. Yeah. I'm going to look up those numbers so that I can talk about it on the next one, so that I can have exact numbers for you guys. But basically, we were not building on a steady pace of what we normally build to because of what happened in 2008. Mm-hmm. And so now things are kind of catching up to us, where we have not been building enough houses, and everyone was put in a scenario where they were ready to purchase homes. COVID had a major impact on everybody. But one thing it did is allowed people to prepare and set themselves up to be in a position to purchase a home earlier than anticipated. Yep. Especially some people who were stuck at home were like, I don't want to live here. I want to go live somewhere else. I want to buy my own house. They set themselves up perfectly to do so. And so now we have so many people that are searching and so few houses in inventory that's what's kind of created this demand and put the prices where they're at. Interest rates have slowly been going up. Yeah. And that has not deterred much. That is not.
No, so, I don't think it will too much.
Well, it's going to put people in a different bracket of what they can afford. So some people are going to fall off that list, but the demand is so high right now that it just is not. If and this is again my opinion, who knows? But worst case scenario, prices are going to level off where they're at. I don't really see them going down. You may be able to negotiate a little bit better, I feel. So, talk them down. But the initial price point that's going to be asked for, it's there. We're there. Yeah. People are purchasing these houses, saying that the house is worth this amount. It's being appraised at this amount. These are the values. People are saying it's not worth that. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Like, this is the way that it's always worked.
Yeah,
and
it's basic economics. Supply and demand.
But people are stuck to 10 years ago, whatever the case may be, and saying, no, but it is 100% how this works. The prices of houses go up. People are willing to pay. Not only are people willing to pay for it, people are willing to pay more for it. Like, people are like competing to pay to get this house. So
and they're pulling out cash. They're pulling out cash. They're doing the appraisal gaps. So even if it doesn't appraise at that price, they're paying the difference.
Yep.
So in that situation, it's not going to affect the banks. If anything, it's going to affect the buyer.
But they're in the positions to be able to do those things, and their agent should be speaking with them. For anybody who's doing these things, they should be in a comfortable position to do these things.
Yeah.
But competition is rough out there. I do not see this in any way, shape, or form being a crash at any point. But it's a conversation I've had over and over. And if you look on the internet, there's all types of videos, clickbaits. Like, there's so much out there that is just like, that crash is coming soon.
Yeah.
Show me some numbers, or show me they're so much tighter and restricted on giving out loans because of the 2008, 2009 situation that, for people they're actually in a better position than they think.
Yeah.
Lenders are more on the conservative side now to make sure that people who are purchasing these homes are okay.
Yeah. I sold several homes last year to people who had bought their house like before 2008, and they're like, man, I don't remember having to sign this many documents with the lender and everything. Yep. I mean, there's stacks like this when you
super stacks.
Whereas before it was a couple pieces of paper.
Got to use redwood trees.
Now they got everything. Yeah,
they need all that paper, man.
Yeah.
And so I just don't see it happening. I'm just picking brains on that one because it's just a conversation that I keep having over and over. With potential clients who are in a great position to purchase a home.
Yeah.
And it's just that little bit of information that I don't think is being represented correctly in the, in the clickbaits, in the things that they're trying to get attention. Yeah. And so they're misinformed on the whole situation that's going on there to make a more informed decision. You know?
And I almost wonder, because I hate to use this term, but I feel like some of it is like fear mongering, because there's some people that just, they don't understand it.
Yeah.
So, like they always say, you fear what you don't understand.
Yep.
So there's people that are warning against those things because, one, they don't want it to happen. Nobody wants a crash. Nobody wants that to happen. Okay. But, if you're preparing yourself for something that doesn't happen, i.e. Y2K. I mean, for those of you who are old enough to remember, we had jugs of water in the basement. We had a powder
Everything's
dry milk.
Gonna shut down because it's driven by technology, and the zeros are gonna make it all.
So it was we were freaking out about that, but people were prepared for it, which is fine. I'm personally, I'm not one of those doomsday prepper people, but it's I feel like you should be prepared
for anything.
For anything.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with preparing, but still being informed on what's happening.
So in order, in one of those ways to prepare that is, if you buy a house right now, and it's $30,000 above ask or whatever, as long as you don't sell it, if it does crash, as long as you don't sell it at that time, you're fine, because you should be okay with your mortgage.
Yes.
If you are stretching yourself too thin, there's really nobody else to blame but yourself, unless something happens, like you lose your job or that's a totally different.
And that can happen at any time. That can happen. Anybody can lose their job at any time. That's not guaranteed.
That's not what we're talking about. What I'm talking about is you're just not fiscally responsible, and you're spending all your money on whatever
other
else
things
instead of doing what you're supposed to do and paying your bills and all that.
So the payment that you would get, you're going to be comfortable with that payment amount for X amount of years. And let's say a crash somehow came about and happened within the next year. The only way that you would lose, it's the same with stocks that people don't hold when things go down. The only way you would lose is if you were I better sell my house because it's not worth as much now.
Yeah.
And then you're going to lose. But as long as you're intending on staying in the home, if you're buying the home to live in there and you intend to stay there, 5 years or more, if you look at prices since the 1900s, prices steadily go up. Yeah. There's been one major crash. That was 2008. Yeah. Since the 1900s, it's been one crash.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody fears is that one crash coming back. I understand it's memorable.
Yeah.
It affected a lot of people, and it was a horrible situation. And
awful,
what led to it was horrible, which is why it was corrected so that we don't face that same situation again. But it seems to be what everyone refers back to, and it's mostly in recent memory because it happened. It can happen. It had just happened. I get that, but things have been corrected so that for those particular reasons, another crash doesn't come about.
And I understand too. You know, not every situation is your decision. Sometimes you have to sell your home because you got a different job. It pays a little bit less, or maybe you're moving somewhere. You know, whatever it may be. It's still your decision most of the time whether you want to sell the house or not.
Yeah.
Okay. During the 2008 crash, my parents actually had their house up for sale, and they pulled it off the market because they're like, we're only getting like $10,000 above what we paid for it.
Yeah.
And it was like 10 years later.
Yeah.
And so
it's better to wait.
Screw that.
Yeah, better to wait.
So then, 2 years ago, they sold it, and they were able to sell it for more than double what they originally paid for it. Okay. So that's the thing is if there is a crash, your best bet is to just stay put in the house that you're in if you can. Obviously, things happen.
Every situation is different.
Okay?
Yeah.
Stay in the house if you can. And what I've been telling my clients when they're looking at paying $30,000 over ask is I ask them the question. I say, are you going to live here for more than 5 years?
Yeah.
Because if not, then you're making a bad decision.
Yeah.
Because you're going to lose.
Yep.
I mean, chances are the house may not be worth $30,000 over what you paid for. I mean, you may not even break even at that point. You may, but you may not within 5 years. So that's the thing that I'm cautioning my buyers with. However, if you're going to be living there for 10, 15 years, you're probably not going to lose. You may not make as much as you would like to, but you shouldn't lose.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, was that answers my question on where I stood with that, and that's I want to keep picking people's brain on that one just to see if anybody has maybe some information that I don't have, or maybe I haven't seen things in a certain perspective. I would love to know. And and that being said, for the people who are thinking that there is a crash coming, I would love more information on that. Like, I would love to see what that is or what makes you think that. I think one of the most important decisions that you can make is being as open and comfortable with your real estate agent and realizing that your agent's on your team. The more you win, the more the agent wins. It's a relationship where everybody needs to win. Otherwise, it's not the right relationship.
Yeah.
Like, that's simply put. And so if you don't feel that you're in that scenario, you should put yourself in that scenario with somebody who you're comfortable with, to have the conversation, to know the facts, to make the best decision. Ultimately, all decisions come up to our clients. All we do is provide information and let you make the decision based off the information that we provide. And that's really it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you ever feel like you're being pressured by your real estate agent, then, maybe you need to reevaluate that
How many agents have you met with before you came down to using that agent? Because I do think a lot of people, actually statistically speaking, most people stick with the first agent that they speak with, not knowing what else is out there. Yeah. And I don't know if initial contact is different than what the relationship is all throughout. Because I know you could see that happening where there's like, oh, yes, but then they don't get the service that they deserve. They don't get the attention. They don't get the information that they need. There's a lot that goes into it. So even if that initial situation is good, but then things fall downhill, you have options. You always have. There are plenty of agents. I mean, there's a lot of real estate agents. You have choices, and you should feel comfortable with whatever agent you decide to go with. Yeah. It's just that simple. It's your choice. Options. You're the one who hires the agent. Yeah. So
and you have to look at it like this too. It is a relationship. And it can become a friendship. I mean, I still communicate with a lot of my clients.
Me too.
I'm still very friendly with them.
Me too.
But you also have to look at it from a business mindset. And if you don't feel that your agent is doing everything in their power to help you through this process, to get you the best deal that you possibly can get, reevaluate. There's nothing wrong with doing
reevaluate.
Look, Vadi and I, we understand. We've been hired and fired hundreds of times.
Yep.
Every time like we call somebody and we talk to them and then they don't call us back, we got fired.
We basically got fired.
It happens. So as a real estate agent, we understand not everyone's going to like us. Not everyone's going to want to work with us. But we also want them to be, we want our clients to be happy.
Yeah.
All right. We don't want a bad relationship with anybody.
Yep.
So, that's just kind of the thing. If your client, or if your agent is just like, all right, I'll be your agent, and you're doing all the research, you're setting up your own searches and all that stuff, they're not doing you service.
Yeah.
Let the agent send you homes, let them go out and look at homes, and then tell you, hey, I just showed this one to another client of mine. Like, would you guys be interested in it? If they're not doing that kind of stuff for you, then they don't have your best interest in mind, and they're just waiting for you to make an offer, and all they do is write it up, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah, there's a lot more that goes into it. But again, the only reason I mention that is because I think people should be informed.
Yeah.
Like that's literally, it all comes down to the more information you have, the more power that's in your hands for you to make a better decision, which ultimately should result in either the house or the investment that you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I guess if we want to go over like one last thing with like the residential and multiplex and like the investment properties kind of stuff. Just one last thing to kind of go over, I guess, would be we close on the house. What do we do now? How do we find tenants? How do we get it ready for tenants? What do we do in these situations? So, I guess like one of the things that you can do is either you can manage the property yourself, which, it's going to save you some money. And maybe if you just have 1 or 2 units, maybe you can handle that. Yep. And maybe it's not that big of a deal for you. But if you have multiple units, eventually it's going to get to a point where it's like, all right, I gotta like quit my job to do this.
Yeah.
Okay. So the one thing is finding a good property management company. There's really no, like, I don't personally use a property management company right now because I've just got the 2 duplexes. So I'm able to manage it myself. Okay. Once I get more, I'm going to have to start kind of getting into using property management companies. So as of right now, I don't recommend any of them because I haven't like worked with them personally. I haven't like talked to them or vetted them out. We have a couple that we know of and everything, and I can give you contact information and numbers. But as far as like recommending, I stay away from that.
I don't either. Yeah,
because I've had some of my clients say that this is the worst property management company, and then others say, I love this property management company. They do a great job for me. Okay. So it once again, it's kind of like a personal relationship thing. Some people feel like, maybe they don't communicate enough with them, or they don't, send them the reports timely or whatever it may be. Okay. I don't know the reasons necessarily, but the best way to find a good property management company is to sit down and meet with each one of them, get a list of them, kind of talk to them, and then just ask them, hey, can I have some of your clients' information so I can kind of talk to them as references?
Yeah.
Just do that, and try them out. Typically, they're going to ask you for 10% of the rent. Okay. So if you're working your numbers, keep that in mind that 10% of the rent is most likely it's going to go towards that property management company. So that cuts into your cash flow, that cuts into your overall investment. However, it also frees up your time.
It's a benefit as well. It depends what point you're at, if it's worth it for you or not. Yeah. It really depends on how many properties you have and how much of a headache you're willing to deal with. Because the property management, they're going to collect rent. They're going to fix any issues going on. Like, you basically don't have to deal with any of that. Yeah. So you are taking that completely off the table for 10%. If you're at a point where it's worth it, then it's 100% worth it. But in the beginning stages, I wouldn't recommend it for starting out.
If you're just buying one, most people can manage that. Especially, if you're hiring out like some of the stuff that needs fixed. I mean, you're not going over there and fixing stuff. You're hiring a contractor to do it. I mean, maybe if you want, you can paint it yourself. I mean, that's save yourself a couple bucks doing that. But like, that's just part of that service that they provide. So if you're getting multiple units, if you're getting more than what you feel like you can handle on your own, then I recommend getting a property management company.
Agreed.
There's several in the Toledo area. So, you got to kind of do your own research on that. So I know I'm not super helpful in that area, but that's just because I haven't used one yet. So I don't like giving references to people that I haven't used personally.
Yeah. And something to be said with that, with Key Realty, we do not do property management ourselves. So that's why it's a little tougher for us to even recommend. I haven't used anybody, so it's tough for me to recommend anybody. But again, we just want to let you know that option is there. So definitely 100% if you're getting in over your head and you have a lot of properties and you're noticing things are coming up and it's just easier for somebody else to deal with, that's an option. You don't have to do all that work. So the option is there, but with everything else, you got to do your own research on that part. And I'm sure we have information and contacts that we can give you to help you along the way, but then it's up to you to call them, see if it's a right fit for you, and go from there. So.
Yeah, exactly. So then the other thing too is, what if I buy the property and there's no tenant in there? It's a vacant property. You can do one of two things. You can find a tenant right away and put them in there. Or you can go in there and you can fix some things up, okay? It's so much easier to have things fixed up when there's not a tenant in there, okay? Tenants typically don't like people messing up their house, okay? So I recommend if you ever are doing fixing or replacing or repairs or anything like that, do it in between like vacancies, okay?
Oh, yeah.
So like, for example, anytime I have a unit and it's vacant, I go in and I assess everything. I look at, how's the carpet look? Is it in good shape? Are there a lot of stains?
Why do you have carpet?
Yeah, why do you have carpet?
That would be my main thing.
I mean, so here's the thing. Here's my personal thing is if it's got hardwood floors, I make sure the hardwood floors aren't an absolute mess. They're not an absolute wreck. If they are, if there's like stains all over them, pet stains, and that happens a lot.
That happens too.
Okay. You cover it with some carpet. Okay. Or you can put like a nice vinyl plank or something.
I was gonna say I would do the vinyl planking, the waterproof vinyl planking.
So what I typically do on mine is I'll put carpet in the bedrooms, and then like the rest of it I'll use vinyl plank or like laminate flooring, whatever, something like hard, solid, whatever. And then I go through and I paint everything. And if there's any repairs, I try and get all that stuff done and out of the way so that when I put a tenant in there, I know what's wrong. I know what's been fixed. I know what's not. Okay. And that kind of gives me some peace of mind. It doesn't mean that things won't happen, but at least you've gotten some of that stuff out of the way. I typically estimate roughly like $1,500 for flooring in each room.
Okay.
And then maybe like $100 for each room for paint. Okay. And it fluctuates too. I mean,
I was gonna say that varies drastically because $1,500 per room is like nah, man. Like it depends. Because some rooms are tiny, some rooms are huge. So like it's
So
I get
that's why I say like the average. Because like at one of my duplexes, it's 2 bedrooms and like a family room. So it's like there's 3 rooms, 15. I think I was able to carpet it for like $2,000 or something. Okay. And I also recommend buying carpet squares.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, good. Good idea.
So here's the thing with carpet squares that you have to understand is one, they're much more expensive. They're almost double the price of like carpet with padding and tack strips. Okay. So it's more expensive. However, say they spill something, it gets stained. All I'm doing is I'm replacing maybe 1 or 2 squares.
Yeah.
And putting those down.
Keep some backup squares.
So I've got a couple boxes of squares that
it's better to have them as backups just in case.
Exactly. So I'm kind of trying this out. I've heard a lot of other landlords, they do this and it works out really well for them. Instead of having to carpet the entire room, they only have to carpet a couple of spots. And like I said, it is more expensive. However, if you are having to replace the carpet, the entire room,
it's gonna be
each tenant, 3 uses. And you've covered your cost. As far as like, doing that. Because a carpet square on its own is, maybe like $3-4 a piece, depending on if it's like a 2-footer or 1 by 1, whatever. So, that's
something else to look at. There's options.
Just something to kind of like mitigate some of that risk of having to fix things a lot.
I'm still not a fan of the carpet. I don't like carpet. I do like carpet in bedrooms though. I don't know why. Like waking up and having carpet under your feet is like super cool. I don't know. It feels like a home, like for me. But everywhere else, like I'm super against carpet.
That's why I do it. Is I do it in the bedrooms and then the family room, living room, kitchen, whatever. It's all vinyl plank. Okay. So and then like obviously paint. You don't have to go crazy with like high end paint. I mean, you can kind of use some middle of the road stuff, but just give it a new coat of paint. And for the love of God, please do not paint over the outlets. Like, I mean, that's such like. It's so frustrating to me.
Remove the outlets, put some tape over it, and you're golden.
Yeah,
you're golden. Remove the cover plate.
Just take a piece of tape.
One piece of tape covers the whole thing.
Yeah,
and then that's it.
I mean,
I know.
It's a personal peeve of mine.
I'm with you.
If you do it, then whatever. More power to you. That's fine. But
it's one screw.
So
it's one screw holds the cover on.
It's one screw.
Some of them are two at maximum. Yeah. It's the most I've ever seen is 2 screws.
Yeah.
Take the plate off, man. It's so worth it.
So here's my theory on this is the reason once it's vacant, I go in and I fix up stuff. My theory, and I'm still waiting to kind of see some results of this, is if you have the place kind of fixed up nice, if there's no stains on the carpets, if the walls are nice and clean and the things look good, the tenants are more likely to take care of it. Okay?
Yeah.
If they see a stain on the carpet,
they already don't care about it.
They're going to think
they're already it doesn't even matter. The carpet's already ruined. Yeah.
So, I mean, and regardless of what happens, some people they just don't care. So you have to understand that there may be times where you just got to go in there and you got to replace everything. I mean, it
may happen.
That's why you set aside that money just in case you have to do that. But that's also why you have the security deposit, which we can talk a little bit about too. But your main thing is just be respectful to your tenants.
Yep.
Like what my wife and I do when we sign a new lease. We give them we go to the Swan Creek Candle Company out in Swanton, and we give them like a nice little candle and have them sign. So it's like a little sign-on gift.
Nice.
And it's like, I mean, I had like every single one of my tenants that I've ever signed. They've always said nobody's ever done this. Nobody's ever given us a gift. It's like a $5 candle.
Yeah, but it leaves an impression.
It leaves an impression.
No.
It lets them know that you respect them.
Yeah.
They respect you because of that now.
Yep.
And hopefully, my theory. And we'll find out. Maybe like 2 years from now we can have
This is a 2-year study. We're beginning now, just so you know.
So we'll see. I mean, and if it works, great. I mean, a $5 candle could save you $1,000 in carpet or paint.
That's a lot of money.
So, so that's the thing is it may work for me. It may not work for you. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're just like, you know what, screw it.
Everyone has their own style.
Like, just pay me my money. I don't care.
Everyone has their own style. Yeah.
So that's one of the things is when it's vacant, that's when you try and fix everything up, get it all cleared out. Because once a tenant's in there, it's very difficult to get in there to fix things, because you're interrupting their schedule and they're interrupting. You got to work on their schedule, their time. Because I can almost guarantee you, they're going to want to be home when you're there.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do the work while they're living in there. You take the time when it's empty, and you keep a mental, everything should be prepared for the tenant once it goes in. Now, if they address something that needs to be addressed, you address that right away. Yeah. That's one thing.
Emergencies are different.
But if something happens to come up, or they say, hey, this is happening, we don't want it taken care of now, do put additional money aside for that, because now you have to tap into not just your emergency, because you have your emergency, you're prepared for it, but you already know there's another expense coming out. Just prepare for it accordingly.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So, and it's just kind of a thing that you obviously have to prepare for, that there may be issues, but if you address a lot of those issues before you even put a tenant in, there's going to be less headache. So what I kind of tell the tenants too is like, okay, it's my property, but it's your home. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I make sure that I state that to them, because I want them to understand that I respect their home and their property within that home, but it's my property.
Yeah.
Okay. So that way they understand, like, there's a mutual respect.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to respect your living area and where you live, and hopefully you respect the property that I own here. And try and make it like a mutual thing.
Both parties should benefit.
Yeah.
Both parties should. It's another situation where both parties should benefit. Otherwise, what are either one of you guys doing if that's not the way the relationship is working?
Yeah, because here's the thing: is if you look at your tenants as kind of like, oh, they're just they pay me my rent. Mm-hmm. You're looking at it the wrong way, because without tenants, you're not making any money.
You're not.
Without tenants, you're paying the mortgage.
Yep.
So treat them with respect. Treat them with
They're the
kindness,
most important part of the whole element.
You're
You could do everything else, but if you don't have anybody
Yeah.
in there, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's a service.
Yeah.
Okay, it's no different than going to McDonald's and them getting your order wrong. Like you get all ticked off at them, right?
Yep.
But like if they ask me to fix something and I don't fix it, they're gonna get ticked off at me.
Yeah.
And then there's a breakdown of that relationship.
There's always things that go wrong within a home that need to be addressed, or just in general. As long as they're addressed and corrected, that's the main takeaway from it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, once again, every situation is different. Every tenant is different. Some are going to call you.
Every landlord's different.
Yeah. I mean, some of you may be looking at me and like, this dude is crazy. Like, why is he even like replacing carpet? You know, like. Because that's my plan. And I'm also looking at it in the long-term investment too, because when I go to resell this place in 30, 40 years from now, whenever, I'm going to be able to say, hey, I redid this, I redid that. This has been redone. It's updated or whatever, maybe not 30 years from now, it won't be updated, but
you changed the carpet 17 times.
Yeah. But it's one of those things that, I'm going to know that I've taken care of this place. And I know that like I'll be able to sell it for more than what I paid for it. I know that it's a long-term investment. Yeah. So you have to kind of look at it like that. Don't look at it as if you're doing some updates or some repairs or things like that. Don't look at it as wasted money. Look at it as investing in the home so that it lasts longer, so you can make money longer, so that you can, if and when you do go to sell it, that you can sell it for more. That's the ultimate goal. The landlords that just buy a property and they just let it fall apart and they just put tenant after tenant in there without ever doing anything. I mean, it's a way to make money, but
there's right and wrong ways to go about all this stuff.
Yeah,
there really is.
It's whatever. So, it's all dependent on what you want to do, and if you feel that that's a good way for you to do it, then that's fine too. It's your property. It's however you want to manage it. It's up to you. So, as far as like when you buy it and there's already a tenant in there, okay, obviously you leave it alone. I mean, you can ask them like, hey, is there anything that's kind of messing up on you?
You want to do it. So if you buy a property that already has a tenant in there, you 100% want to do an introduction. Yeah, you are the new person that everything is going to happen with. And there needs to be that relationship there. So 100% you want to reach out and you want to say, wherever the payments are going to go to, any structure. And then you want to ask those questions. Is there anything about the home that I need to know about, anything that needs repair, anything that needs addressed? And you want to learn those things by having that relationship with that tenant in there.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, if you've hired a property management company, you're not doing this.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm talking about you're managing your own property.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that works. So I always just kind of ask them, like, are there any issues, or is there like a light that's flickering or something, like whatever it may be. Is this
anything? What's
this
going
light
on?
switch
Just
not work?
so you know.
Yeah, and so a lot of them, they've told me, well, this happens, but it's not a big deal. I don't care. And if they say they don't care, then you're just kind of like, all right, well, when I get to it, I'll get to it. Yeah. It's not an emergent situation, so you just kind of let it go. So I mean, I guess like the next thing is, once you do that introduction, you let them know, hey, I just closed on this place. This I'm going to be taking over all the responsibilities and managing the property. If you're not hiring a property management company, I'm the owner. So if you ever have any questions or anything, here's my phone number, exchange numbers, and then sit down with them and discuss a new lease. Now, if they're already under a lease, they have tenant rights. So, you got to kind of carry out that lease. However, you can also just say, hey, do you want to sign a new lease? Yep. Instead of, this one. And some people, they go in and they evict the tenants so that they can get in there and fix everything up. If that's your prerogative, go ahead. Just understand that you may have to fix up a couple more things that you may not have had to fix up before. Yep. Okay. I feel that if there's a tenant already in there, you kind of just leave it alone. Yep. Especially if they've been there for a long time and
you don't want to bother them.
Been like paying on time and everything. Just leave it alone. Sign them to for crying out loud, sign them to the exact same lease that they're on right now. Yep. Don't increase the rent and just let that first year ride, because then you're kind of, you're building that relationship with them. Yeah. If you want to increase the rent, you have every right to do that.
Yeah.
You can. There's nothing wrong with doing that either. I just kind of, for that first year, I just say, all right, let's just ride this out, and we'll kind of see how things go.
Yeah.
And then you go from there.
Yeah.
The security deposit, typically it's the same amount as the rent. So if it's $650 a month, you do $650 security deposit. However, you can also ask for like more. I mean, you can ask for double. You can do whatever you want. Yep. But understand that that's not really your money.
Yeah.
It's theirs. You're just holding it for them just in case there are issues that they don't clean out the house, they punch holes in the wall, whatever it may be.
Repairs and
evictions, whatever. So that's kind of how you mitigate some of that risk as well, is you ask them for double security deposit.
If there's pets involved, especially, like you just want to hire security deposit.
So with that being said, and have a lawyer write up your lease agreement. Mm-hmm. Don't do it yourself. Don't just pull one off a line, because every state is different. I mean, heck, even
some things are better to pay to have done correctly and not have to worry about it down the line. Some of the things where you try to save costs are going to come around and hurt you more later, which is why for that one, I agree 100% on that.
Have a lawyer write up the lease agreement. And then I know that there's some things with pets. Okay. Mm-hmm. So obviously if it's an assistance dog or emotional support animal, whatever, those things are kind of protected. Mm-hmm. Like you can't like charge extra on those. But if it's just a pet, you can. I think, and I think
depends
what
the pet is.
Yeah,
too.
I think
like a goldfish. I'm not.
I mean, if it's
a goldfish,
if it's a dog or a cat, you could say, all right, give me an extra $50.
Yeah,
like
whatever. That's a case by case basis. Whatever they decide. Yeah.
Or you don't even have to charge them.
You don't.
But
I recommend it though. Just because pets tend to. I mean, there's going to be something.
On that if it's a dog or a cat, they may scratch up one of your baseboards, and so you have to spend $10 to buy a new piece of baseboard and replace it.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of what I recommend. Definitely have a lawyer write up your lease agreement, and then make sure everyone signs it. Always give them a lead-based paint form if the home qualifies.
Yeah.
Before 1978.
78.
Okay. And then give them a lead-based pamphlet. Those are some things that you have to do legally. So those are just some extra little nuggets of information. I don't really think there's anything else that I can kind of go. I think
we've touched on everything and then some.
Yeah.
I think we went above and beyond So, and I mean, there's plenty more hours that we can spend speaking on all this, because there's just a lot. But I think for a generality, I think we did. I think we've covered everything.
Yeah.
And people, if you have questions, feel free to reach out at any time. You can reach out to us directly. I'll put all the contact info below. So if you guys do have questions, please feel free to reach out or comment below. Anything else you want to add in before we finish up here?
Invest in real estate.
Agreed. All right. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate your time. Have a good one.